Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Hertz, and I'm the director of the Regional Entrepreneurship Center, the Rec Innovation Lab at San Diego Miramar College. And I'd like to thank our partners at this time and give a special thanks to SDSU's Lavin Center, the SDSU Zip Launchpad. We'd like to thank the California Entrepreneurship Educators Conference. Also like to thank Harness, the Brink SBDC at USD, San Diego Unified Schools. We'd also like to thank School of Entrepreneurship and Technology, High Tech High, the Regional Advisory Committee, Alex Waters at the Jacobs Center, Connect All, 21 IQ Labs, Startup Quest, Productified. I'd like to thank Course Key and Tech Coast Angels. Thank you to Village Up, City Heights Development Corporation, San Diego Angel Conference, Startup San Diego, SBDC, Score San Diego, We Are Kingdom, New Media Rights, San Diego Tech Hub, Origin 63, Ambrosio 15, OmniSync, Optima Office, Proven Recruiting, Craft Leadership, GS&L Consulting. Thank you to all of our partners. We couldn't do what we do without you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are, looks like we're all set up and good to go here. Welcome to the Rec Innovation Lab. My name is Tanya Hertz. I'm the director and founder of the Rec. I'm also faculty at Miramar College and San Diego State University, where I teach entrepreneurship. And so I see with us today, we have a lot of our entrepreneurs from SDSU and from Miramar here, and we just love seeing you. Good to see everyone. Welcome. And we have an amazing presenter today. We're just so excited to have with us Lois Song, and I see that he's here, and some more of the folks from Proven Recruiting. I know that Great, thanks. I know Max wanted to give a little bit of an introduction and tell us a little bit about who's speaking today. So I'll pass it over to Max, and then Lois, when you're ready, we can share your slides and we can get going.
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Max Drew. I'm a student associate here at the Rec. We are very lucky today. I'm super excited to have a special presenter who's going to take us kind of on his roller coaster journey of the struggles and surprises that come with entrepreneurial success. Louis Strong, we're super excited to have him. He started from humble beginnings, bounced around a bunch of different jobs, also dedicated himself to becoming a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion. In 2007, he started Proven Recruiting with Ingram Losner, and now has successfully developed revenues exceeding $17 million with 45 employees. So I think the introduction speaks for itself. Without further ado, I'll pass it off to Louis. Thank you.
Pretty impressive there.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you. So we can hear you, we can see you. If you'd like, you can. Do you have slides that we needed to share, or are we good?
I do. I'm not sure if I can get this right because.
Perfect. I could walk you through this.
No, I've got a couple different screens going on, so I just want to make sure I'm doing the right screen here.
You know, honestly, it's fine. We have people who are streaming in right now, and I'm sure that they're actually grateful. So I don't know if you know this, but we just came back from spring break at Miramar, and at SDSU, they didn't even get a spring break this semester. And so it's been an unusual semester for the students. And this week particularly has been a little strange. So
all right, let me do this. Okay, you guys are going to see my my desktop here for a second.
Yeah, be careful what you're sharing, right? It's a pretty desktop. It's nice.
Hold on 1 second. Is this the right one? Nope, that's not the right one. Give me 1 second.
While he's doing that, I'll just make a couple announcements to the rest of the guests and the team. So if you have any questions during the presentation, usually the best way to do it is just to put it in the chat, and then we can follow along. We can watch the chat, and if there's something really pressing, we'll let Lois know. But just remember that while he's presenting, we do turn off our microphones and we turn off the cameras just to limit the load on the bandwidth. And is that the right one? We good?
Can you guys see the slide?
We see failure, yep.
We see a lot of failure, yep.
Let's see it.
So I've got a 19-page slideshow that I can go through.
Cool.
But I really don't think that you guys want to go through a bunch of words on a PowerPoint. And so I thought instead I would take you through almost failure roulette and let you pick what you'd like for me to talk about. each one of these things are something that has led to different opportunities, different places in my life. And I can do after this, I can actually go to the regular slideshow if we run out of things to talk about. But I'd rather just go through, and I know the one that everybody picks is the condom, but we can go through the different things here and see if there's anything that you guys can get out of this.
So tell me, just to clarify, you want us to pick between these failures that we see here, MCAT, the failure, it looks like is that jujitsu, proven,
Yep.
the condom, and K-Force. So
Yep.
how would you like to, let's maybe just put it in the chat.
Looks like I don't know if it's Jazz 3. She just showed up and she's maybe she wants to pick something.
Huh? Okay, want to have just one person pick?
Sure, I really don't, it doesn't matter to me.
If you want to go ahead and put in the chat, any of those that you'd like to see, we can put it in the chat. We can do it democratically. Or Jazz,
It looks like Philippe mentioned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu first, so let's start out with that.
all right.
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned it, Max. I did back, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I was a national champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I got a gold medal, and everybody sees that. But what they didn't see was I actually started Jiu-Jitsu the same year that I started Proven Recruiting. I was 38 years old. I am this typical Korean male, about 5'7", 155 pounds, and I think that's 2 inches shorter than the standard American male. And I've always been smaller. And, frankly, much of my life, I felt like I was the small guy in the room, not always afraid, but sometimes afraid of getting beaten up. And so I've taken defense classes throughout the course of my life, and I started taking Kung Fu, I think it was like in 2004 or something like that, and learned how to strike and kick and all that kind of stuff, and had a good time, but ultimately came to the realization that I hated the forms that are involved in Kung Fu, where you're basically doing repetition of different forms over and over and over again for hours on end. But I loved the actual striking, kicking, and fighting of Kung Fu. It's really just basically kickboxing. And then one day I drove by, as we were starting Proven Recruiting, I drove by a sign for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that was back when the UFC started to really become popular. And I remember watching the UFC and just thinking, oh my God, I would get my ass kicked. And in any situation like this, get to the ground, I am just gonna be pummeled. And I remember driving by this sign every single day because it was right by my way to work. It was on my way home from work. And one day I just walked in there and I asked about the classes. And the funny thing was when I actually drove up to the academy, there were 3 guys. They looked like skinheads. There were 3 white dudes in a Jeep, all shaven heads, smoking cigarettes in front of the academy. And I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? They're like 19, 20-year-old dudes smoking in front of the academy. I'm like, I am in the wrong place. I need to get the hell out of here. And then one of the guys taps on my window real fast. He goes, dude, you here for jiu-jitsu? I'm like, yeah. He's like, come on in, man. The instructor's going to be here in a minute. I come to find out that these guys are actually Marines from Miramar, and really easygoing guys, nice guys, and start with the academy. And I ended up staying with them for almost 13 years. But in that time, we started going to competitions, and every year we would go to competitions, and every year for 6 years, I would go and I would lose. And in the 5th year, I ended up going to a tournament up in Long Beach, and I brought my wife and kids, and they were running around under the bleachers, eating the popcorn, just driving me crazy, trying to get candy. And they were like, I think 5 or 6 years old at the time. And I was completely distracted, not paying attention. And then it came to my turn to go roll for the competition. I go in to my tournament, and within a minute 30, I get choked. And It was embarrassing to me. I was in front of my wife and kids, embarrassing to my coach, my teammates. And as we were walking away, I got my head down, and my boys are asking me, Daddy, 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 how come he's got a medal? How come he's got a medal? Daddy, where's your medal? Daddy, Daddy, where's your medal? And I was like, oh my God, shut up. Just shut up. Be quiet. Like, Daddy, Daddy, can you go get a medal? I'm like, no, I didn't earn a medal. Shut up. And so I remember at that point, I was like, you know what? I either have to stop doing this or I got to take this seriously. I can't just show up to maybe 3 days a week and try this. And if I'm going to go compete with some of the best jiu-jitsu players in Southern California, and honestly, Southern California outside of Brazil is one of the meccas for jiu-jitsu. I can't just show up and think I'm going to do okay. That point forward, I never brought my kids or wife again. And I ended up taking jiu-jitsu a lot more seriously. I ended up going to classes 3 to 4 days a week. I ended up watching videos, ended up taking notes, ended up doing the things that people do when they take something seriously. And it took me another 3 years before I actually won a tournament. But I did end up, I think it was now 4 years ago, ended up winning the national championships, as well as the next year ended up winning second in the worlds. So it was something that it took the failure, and especially, frankly, the embarrassment of having my boys ask me, Daddy, how come you don't have a medal? How come he's got a medal? How come she's got a medal? How come they have a medal? How come, and just that whole experience of realizing that I really wasn't putting in the effort and putting in the energy and having to decide whether or not I was actually going to take this seriously or not. And it was one of the turning points of realizing, just whether it's jiu-jitsu, whether it's business, whether it's your profession, you've really got to ask yourself if you're doing the work that's necessary to perform at the highest levels. And if you're not, you got to be honest with yourself, because the mat doesn't lie. As we say in jiu-jitsu, the mat does not lie. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how old you are, fast you are. If you don't put in the time, you will get choked. You will get tapped. You will break an arm. You will break a leg. Bad things will happen to you if you pretend that you're doing the work. And it was one of the bigger lessons I think I've learned in my life, that you just can't pretend. And I think ultimately it doesn't always show up in the time frame that you want it. But if you put in the time, effort, and energy, your time frame may be different. I know some people that frankly they started winning in their first year. But for me, I didn't start winning until I think it was year number 7 or 8 before I saw any success.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Honestly, like failure, I love this, because like failure is ingrained in entrepreneurship, right? And these are kind of the stories that people don't ever tell. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And so that's why, I started with this. I have a nice, pretty slide here that I usually start with. Hold on a second. I don't know if you guys can. That's the one I usually start with.
much more professional, right? Kind of. I like the one that, with the condom and the
This is more fun. This
right?
is what the hell?
Yeah,
This
totally.
guy's not real. He's not a real CEO. He's not a real owner.
Right. Tell me this though. I have to ask. I want to know why that condom is on there. It's like I don't get it. Like
you don't get it.
Yeah.
There's actually 2 stories to this. And
Okay.
I'll tell you the when I first started in recruiting, okay, or before I even started in recruiting in 1996, I got interviewed by a woman who was a single mother of 5, of a 5-year-old, and I was sitting in the interview room sweating. Like my then fiance had already gotten a job here in San Diego. She was actually an anchor and reporter for Channel 10.
Oh, okay.
And ABC out here in San Diego. And so I'm out. So this was in March, and I'm interviewing with this woman. She's 40 years old. I'm 52 now, but I'm like, oh my God, this woman's so old. I'm 12 years older than she was at the time she was interviewing.
Right. 40 souls. Yeah.
Yeah. And she comes into the interview room without saying hello, without saying, hi, my name is. She just looks at my resume and says to me, why do you think you can be a recruiter? I was like, I'm like stuttering, sweating,
Mhm.
you know, and then my bad oversized suit. I'm like, because I'm an entrepreneur.
Right.
Those are the words that came out of my mouth.
No, the answer.
And she said, well, what does that mean? And I said, well, I throw parties. I was throwing parties for a living after college. She's like, okay, tell me more. So, well, my girlfriend, now fiance, was the secretary of the Korean Student Association at the University of Maryland. And she signed up to throw a Valentine's Day party, and I basically helped them throw this Valentine's Day party where they brought together like 200 kids and they made like $1,000.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, interesting. And so I thought, you know what, I can do this, because back in those days, it was a transition from when drinking went from 18 to 21.
Mm.
Okay, so there was a bunch of kids that were used to drinking. They couldn't drink anymore. They couldn't go to the clubs. They couldn't go to the bars, restaurants. And so I saw an opportunity to throw parties.
Yeah, that's a pain point, right? Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I would rent out the hotel ballroom. And so my roommates and I, we took our rent money for that one Thanksgiving, and we pulled all our money together and $2,000 and rented a hotel ballroom. And I went out and created the flyer, got the DJ, passed out the flyers, put up the flyers at the schools, passed them out at the clubs and the bars and the restaurants and all that stuff. And I was doing all the work, and I ended up, I think, making $25 for 2 months of work.
Hey, but you threw a pretty good party though, right?
It was okay. It was okay.
Okay.
And, you know, the next party, I did it by myself, and I ended up, I think, making like $2,000. But one of the complaints that people had was, it was okay. And they couldn't remember me. They couldn't remember the party. There was nothing to it. And, you know, one of the things that I've tried to do over the course of my life is to be more memorable, to be remembered.
Mm-hmm.
To be different, to do things that are different. And so back in those days, in 1992, 1993, 91, 92, 93, AIDS was becoming a real big problem. And so the student unions, the student health centers were passing out condoms, passing out pamphlets on safe sex. And so I had this bright idea that I would collect all these pamphlets and condoms from the student health centers from around the different universities, and I ended up collecting like 200 condoms and the pamphlets. And my now wife and I was actually talking to about this the other day. We bought 200 helium balloons, spent the night stuffing 200 helium balloons.
With
The
condoms.
next day, yeah, with condoms. The next day, we ended up blowing up the balloons. And if you've ever tied 200 latex balloons, it completely will blister your finger. And then we tied a string around them, and we had a 6-foot string, and then we blew them up and had them in the hotel ballroom. It was a relatively short ballroom, or low ceiling.
I love it.
And
It's a really good idea.
you know, and back in those days, people could smoke, and you know, just typical parties, like all the women are dancing, all the guys are around the periphery smoking,
Right.
you know, hanging out, standing like they're cool, you know, like I'm too cool to dance. I'm not gonna go out there and be stupid. And
Right.
so, as we thought, somebody pulled down a balloon, and they're like elbowing their buddy. Watch this, dude. They pop a cigarette, pop the balloon with a cigarette, and something falls out. They look on the floor, and they're like, "Hey, there's condoms in the balloons. There's condoms in the balloons." And the next thing you know, everybody's pulling down the balloons, popping the balloons, stomping on the balloons. And from that point on, I was known as the guy that threw the condom parties.
See, that's it. I love it. I love it.
And I subsequently ended up throwing 10 parties in all before I ended up moving out here to Washington, D.C., or from Washington, D.C. to San Diego. Some of my parties, I was the first person to have jazz, karaoke at these types of parties. And you know, back in those days, you know, some of the things, for example, there was no online database, there was no online anything. We had phone books, and the universities had phone books, and I would literally sit there, and these parties were specifically at a very niche market. My parties were for Asian Americans, didn't matter what Asian, okay? And I got the phone books from all the different universities: American University, Catholic University, JMU, Virginia Tech, UVA, William and Mary, and I went through each of these phone books and put them into, and Excel didn't even exist back then. It's Lotus 1, 2, 3.
I remember.
And I put them all into a spreadsheet, and both their home address as well as their school address. And I would send them postcards with my flyer a month before the party, 2 weeks before the party to their school addresses, and then a week before they would send it to their home address. And I would most of the time that my parties were the day after Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving, and so everybody would come home for Thanksgiving, and then they'd have nothing to do, and so they'd come to my party.
Hey, perfect, right?
Yeah, and so the last party I ended up having was in January, New Year's Eve of 1995, and it cost me $8,000. I actually had 2 ballrooms at that point, and it cost me, for the ballrooms, for the security, for everything, and I ended up getting 1,000 people at $40 a head, and
It's not bad.
except I forgot thinking about how I would carry that kind of cash out. And so at the end of the night, at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, I'm walking out of the hotel ballroom with trash bags of cash.
No. Did you get mugged? Did you get mugged?
No, I had like all my friends walking around me.
You're like, okay. I thought the story was going to go somewhere very dark. Wow.
No, but that story it's the same story that I actually told when I actually got the job as a recruiter. Because as a recruiter, so much of this job is dependent on your own creativity, on your own initiative, on your own marketing, on your own outreach, on your own efforts. And it was funny. Even after I told that story, she actually went back and told the manager, "Nah, you shouldn't hire this kid. He's too young. He's too green. He's not worth the risk at this point." And thankfully, she was wrong. And she and I actually remained friends. She actually ended up quitting and then coming back to work for me. And then once I left K-Force and then started Proven, she actually came to work for me here at Proven and then retired with us about 10 years ago. Maybe not 10 years ago, maybe 5 years
You must
ago.
have felt pretty silly for not giving you the job that day.
Maybe, I don't know. I've never asked her. I think, she said she was glad she was wrong. Because I've actually employed her daughter. I've employed her future son-in-law. So.
Yeah, that was probably one of those. I mean, it's hard when you're hiring. Also, it's probably one of those mistakes that she would never make again. Who knows? But
I didn't put this on here, but I have hired hundreds of people, and the turnover for us here at Proven as well as at K4 just in the recruiting industry, it's like 90% after 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 9 out of 10 people that we hire will be gone within 3 years.
Wow.
It's like 50% within their first year. And so it's a really tough business. And, for as fun a place as we are, for as many times we've won best places to work every single year that we've been eligible from different organizations, the San Diego Business Journal, the staffing industry as analysts, doesn't matter. Most people quit. And I think over the course of my career, which is 96, so that's 25 years, we're talking like 95% of people have quit on me.
Turnover so high. That's the industry, though. That's the industry.
It is industry, and I think frankly it's sales. And it's an area that most people are going to quit. And the way that I've accepted it now is that I think about it, our business like college. People graduate after a year or two, or many people don't get to their graduation. Some do, okay, but not everybody does. Some people leave after their first year, the second year, and the third year. But everybody will leave at some point. No, almost everybody will leave at some point. Some people will stay on to go to graduate school. Some people will stay on to become faculty, but very few people do that. Mike is one of those guys. I think Mike is in his 3rd or 4th year.
Yeah, going in 3rd, yeah.
So he's on that bubble. He's on that. I don't know if
he's one of the students that graduates and comes back as faculty. Then, right?
I hope. I definitely hope. But this business isn't for everybody, and it churns a lot of people for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know, just on a personal level, I love working with Mike. I would be devastated if he left. I think of, when I think of Proven, and I don't know you very well, Lois, but I know Mike now, and so I think of Mike. So I can from my perspective, I'd love to see him stay as long as possible. But I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you constantly are with high turnover rates like that. I mean, it's exhausting.
But the thing is, though, how do you deal with having new freshmen every single year? How do you deal with having the freshmen hopefully they become sophomores, hopefully they become juniors, but eventually if they become seniors, they're going to graduate and they're most likely going to leave. And so,
right.
If I think it took me a long time, frankly, it took me I became a manager in 1997, and it wasn't until 2000 we started here in 2007. I would say it wasn't until 2013, 14 that I started to really think about employee turnover more from the standpoint of for example, collegiate athletic programs. The University of Alabama is notorious now for winning. They win. It seems like they win the football championships every single year. I don't know if did they win this year? Okay, Max is nodding yes.
Yeah, they win.
Yeah, so every single year they put together a stellar team. Every single year they're bringing great freshmen on board, and I think especially as you guys if you become the entrepreneurs and you build your own businesses, one of the things I was thinking about last night was Steve Jobs and Elon Musk. I think they get so much credit for their technical prowess, but I don't think that's what makes them special.
No.
Steve Jobs was kicked out of his own company for being an asshole.
Right.
Okay, he got kicked out of Apple because he was a complete dick.
He was a real jerk.
Okay,
yeah.
But then he got brought back, and I think he was a very different person. He was still tough, but he became a great people leader. And I think that's one of the most difficult things as I thought about, when I was talking with you guys, how do you become the person that's not only technical and can bring some technical, something of value to the world that's going to help the world become a better place, but to be able to do it in a way where people will follow you. What's the one thing that all leaders have in common? And it's not, great leaders like Trump or Obama or Hitler or Mussolini or Winston Churchill. Okay, whether you like these people or not.
I was going to say, and by great, it's maybe not great in the way that we think of great, but great as in a effective and
absolutely. And so none of these people necessarily have morals in common or ethics in common, but they all have followers. That is the one thing that all leaders have in common. If you're going on a path and no one's following you, you're not a leader. You're just a loner.
Right.
And so, you might have a great technical idea, and you might even be able to come up with it and manufacture it. But if you can't build a company of people around you, and that's one thing I think, with Musk, if you've ever heard him speak, I'm like, oh my God, how the hell does this guy do anything? He could barely get a sentence out.
I know, right?
But he has, been able to bring people together. And if you hear about what some of the things that he's done with either, Tesla, he didn't actually find. He didn't found the company. He was actually somebody that was brought in later on. And whether it's Tesla or SpaceX or any of the other companies, he's both jobs as well as all the leaders have amazing people skills to be able to do what they've done.
And that's really what you see as entrepreneurs as being more than anything else as leaders of people.
No, not necessarily. I think there are some great leaders, but being an entrepreneur, there's almost some stupidity involved. The difference between myself and Ingram and others, I would say that from an intellectual academic standpoint, we're actually not smarter. The other thing that's on here, one of the things that's on here is the fact that I failed my MCATs. Or I didn't fail. I guess you can't pass or fail, but I didn't. My plan was to go to med school, become a doctor. I got my degree in psychology, but minored in bio. I took all the pre-med classes and everything. And my plan was to go to med school, and I just failed. And part of it was I just didn't really like biology. Part of it was that I didn't really want to become a doctor. It was something that I thought I was supposed to become because I didn't know any better. from an academic standpoint, I mean, yeah, in high school I got a 3.5, but in college I got a 2.7. And I just didn't really like school that much. I mean, it was fine at some points, but I love learning today so much more than I loved learning when I was in college. And
so go ahead, keep going.
I think, just to go back to the point of whether what is an entrepreneur a leader? No, not necessarily. I think an entrepreneur is somebody who takes risks, somebody who decides that they're going to make the leap, even though it's not a good idea. Because when I left K-Force, nobody said it was a good idea other than Ingram and a couple of other people. Everyone else was like, "You're out of your freaking mind. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into," and we really didn't. But we did it anyway. And
I just want to say one thing. I just interject here, just from more than 10 years of teaching entrepreneurship and hearing stories from entrepreneurs. I've heard so many entrepreneurs echoing the sentiment that you're echoing right now about not loving school necessarily, but still loving knowledge and learning. And I think that they're wired a little differently. I think that people like you, they're wired a little differently than the rest of the population to do things like take those risks, but then get everyone to buy into their vision, see what they're seeing, and then follow them along down the road. And I think you're a good storyteller too. I think that's another just amazing skill that you have, because we can picture what you're saying, and then that'll help us kind of see, oh yeah, I get what he's saying. I want to follow him down that road. I don't know.
Yeah. I think, Mike can interject here a little bit, but I think I've learned that over the course of time, maybe partially because I've, of the two of us, Ingram is actually the much more outgoing person. My wife is the outgoing person. My wife was the TV personality. My wife started a film festival. It became the third largest Asian film festival in the United States. I've always been kind of the background person. But from a storytelling standpoint, I think it's because I've been more introverted and introspective and learned to listen. And one of the things that I really, I think it was just part of who I am, was I just asked a lot of questions, and I asked for a lot of detail. Okay, how did you do it? Why did you do it? When did you do it? Who did you do it with? What were the challenges? What were some of your successes? Then what happened? And then what happened? And why did you do it? And then it's like, on and on and on and on. And so, and it's because I've listened to a lot of books. I was just looking at my library, my Audible library. I think it's like 456. But one of the most important books I've ever listened to it's called Building a Story Brand.
I haven't read it.
And it talks about the main facets of branding and marketing and Hollywood films, and the idea that every single blockbuster Hollywood film is based on a very simple formula. There is a protagonist, male, female, it doesn't matter. Okay, and they're living their life, and then they run into a problem. Okay, if you think of Luke Skywalker, if you think of Mulan, if you think of Nemo, if you think of, it doesn't matter what story it is, but there's a protagonist, and they're living their life, and all of a sudden they run into a problem. Luke Skywalker's uncle and aunt gets killed. Okay, and then and they can't figure the problem out on their own, and so they have to get a guide. And along comes a guide who helps them get better. And then they go along and they try to defeat the antagonist, but they can't do it on the first try. They try it again, maybe on the second or third try, they finally get it, and then they live happily forever after. But if you look at
pretty much every story I've ever heard, right? Yeah.
Right. And so if you look at all the different stories, and the reason that, the alternative films or, the indie films don't really work, they critically acclaim, but they don't work well in the box office, is because the thing that you guys are looking for, the thing that I think that we all are looking for in the stories that you hear is, oh shit, if he can do that, I can do that.
Yep.
If Luke Skywalker can overcome and get, become better as a person and become a Jedi Knight. Hey, I'm going to become a version of a Jedi Knight. I'm going to become, Nemo or Mulan. And I think that's where these stories are so important. And I think one of the reasons why I've learned how to make it, I don't know about simple, but
What do you mean?
engaging in that you can see yourself in the stories that I tell.
Mm.
I mean, I got a 2.7 GPA. I'm 5'7". I'm not. I think Max looks like he's about 6'2". Okay.
You're on the money. 6'2", exactly.
See, 6'2",
Yeah.
6'2", about 205 or something like that. Okay.
That's crazy. How did you get that from a picture? What? The-
Did you really write on? Oh,
That was
wow.
weird. Yeah. Okay.
I can size people up now based on my experience. I'm like, I'm not
Apparently,
gonna mess with this guy.
it's crazy.
But
I would
anyway,
have thought you were 6 foot. That's
okay. But I think these things that you learn how to tell stories in a way that helps people to understand them, and I think that's probably one of my better skills is to help people understand.
Yes.
There's nothing
Sorry,
special.
you're saying things that I love you saying this, because I think that that's the main problem that so many people have, is that they can't simplify and boil down the story enough to where it's easily understood, compelling, that regular people get what the heck you're saying. Sorry, keep going. I interrupted you. You're just saying exactly what I've been thinking a lot lately, and that you hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
I would love to. I can go on with other stories, but I would love to hear of any other questions that have come up
Any questions in
while
the
I'm just
chat, Matt?
jabbering here.
Yeah. Let me check I don't think anything's in the chat right now. If nobody else has a question, I had a question for you, just as far as you were talking about Audible. I thought that was interesting because a lot of people I talk to, especially businessmen and super successful entrepreneurs, always talk about reading. And I wanted to know from your perspective, if listening to Audible books, if you feel that compared to reading, like what would be the differences in the sense of like comprehension and how you kind of digest that medium?
So you can't listen to either podcasts or an Audible book or anything while you're sitting, in my opinion, unless you're driving, okay, or you're doing the dishes, or you're doing the laundry, something else. You can't read something. You can't have a book or anything else in front of you. And one of the reasons that for me personally that I like to listen to Audible, listen to podcasts is I think like many people, there's a shitty voice in our heads. It's the doubting voice in our heads. It's the negative voice in our heads that say, "What's wrong with you, Max? How come you haven't done this? Your friends are doing this. You should be better off. You should be stronger. You should be faster. You should be smarter. You should be further along in your life." And you compare yourself to all these people, and that self-critical voice is so horrible. And so for me personally, I've been listening to tapes, CDs, and then now Audible for the last 20 plus years because I needed to overwhelm that voice inside my head that kept saying how shitty I was. And when I found that I've listened to books 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and it's helped me to overwhelm that voice. I even watch YouTube videos when I work out in the morning. There's a guy named he's not coming to my head. I think Mike might know who I'm talking about here, but there's all these different voices that you can listen to, and in any case, I find listening to those voices in my head much easier, better, more productive for me. Whereas reading a book, I think I'm not ADD, but I just can't sit and read a book. I just can't sit for that long. I think one of my traits is that I'm constantly moving. I'm constantly doing stuff. And the idea of sitting and reading for more than 30 minutes is a very difficult thing for me to do. And so, sometimes I end up listening to a book 2 or 3, 4 times, but it's okay.
No, there's a lot of research out there about entrepreneurs and their personality types and their education levels and their and with things like learning disabilities even and processing of information. And I was reading this Kauffman Foundation study recently where it's something like close to 40% of entrepreneurs have some form of dyslexia. And while they consume more books than most of the regular population, they don't often read them. Many of them do listen, just like you do, Lois. And so it's interesting that you say that. So interesting.
Let's see.
Other chats.
I think Benjamin Bryn here had something to say or ask.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. I really enjoyed it. So basically, if someone like I've had various people tell me that oh you're crazy to not do this, to not do this various career path or anything like that. Sort of like how you were talking about to quit your first job there. Does what they're saying about you're going to go to jail if you don't do this job or whatever, is it sort of like the opposite comes true if you work hard at what you're trying to do?
I think let me answer it in a way that'll talk about the opportunity, the failure at Kforce. Okay. I started there in '96, and I told you how I got the job, and then a year later I got promoted into a manager, and then I was managing people that were 10 years older than I was. And then when I started, it was 13 people, and ultimately as I became the manager of a group and then the office, I grew it from 13 people to 70 plus people, and it was generating $40 million in sales per year and earning $6 million a year from one singular office. It was actually the largest single office that Kforce had in the entire company. It was $1 billion company. And for the last 2 years, I was constantly rated as one of the worst managers in the company. And the reason was I kept questioning everything. Why are we doing this? Why are we paying people in San Diego like they're living in Tampa? That doesn't make any sense. You're not going to pay the people in New York City the way that you would pay people in Tampa, Florida. Why would we apply these rules in San Diego for the technology group the way that you would apply these rules to the finance and accounting team? It doesn't make sense. And the answer constantly came back because Jeff said so, because Bill said so, because Dave said so. And it wasn't because of these business reasons. And I got more and more unhappy with my manager, with my team, with myself. I stopped working out at that point in my life. And, I got to a place where I just wasn't happy at all. And I remember going to a sales meeting one year as a sales management meeting. And I remember looking at the chief sales officer, and he was getting yelled at by the CFO. And at that moment, I thought, holy shit, that's my life. I stay here, and this is overly dramatic, but I literally thought, and before that, I was like, I'm going to stay here with the rest of for the rest of my life. I'm going to retire off into the sunset. I'll be 60 something years old. I'll have a nice little nest egg. I'll be, nice, comfortable life. And I remember seeing that guy, that 60-year-old guy, and he was getting chewed out by the CFO in front of the entire leadership team, the management team of this company. And I thought, I can't be that guy. I'm going to lose my soul. I'm going to be the guy, the dog with his tail between his legs. I got to get the hell out of here. And I remember going from, I'm so afraid of losing everything that I've built, to, God, I'm so afraid of becoming that guy. I'm so afraid of becoming the person I would not respect myself. And from that point forward, I no longer looked at building my own company as a risk of financial loss. I looked at it as a risk of, and again, it's overly dramatic, but a risk of losing my soul. And maybe, what the better phrase is, I was at risk of losing my own self-respect. And that was something, I think when you see people who are frankly, my age, 50, 40, 50, 60, whatever, and you see them beaten down. I think that's where they are, where they feel like they no longer have a say. They're just doing what they're told. And especially as we get into our 40s and 50s, you know, we're adults. We know what the hell we're doing. We know how to do it. We've had enough time and experience that we should be able to make decisions. And I realized staying at that company, I would not be able to make decisions. And I realized that I had to make the leap. Otherwise, I would always be answering to somebody else. And so that's why I ultimately ended up leaving, was because I just could not. And because I interviewed a couple of other companies and talked about, joining them. And I realized that they were going to tell me to do the same stupid crap. And it's like, well, why should we do this? Because I said so. And honestly, now I'm the stupid idiot that gets to tell Mike what to do. Right, Mike?
Thank you so much for that. For that.
I got a question to that one. No, thanks for the intro there. So with so many failures that you go through, so I think entrepreneurs think about failure, but the recovery from the failure is something that I'm always intrigued by. You have so many of these failures listed here, and probably many more that you probably don't include. What keeps you going? Like, what motivates you to kind of continue to keep pushing?
I think honestly, it's perspective. I remember getting an F in my psychological basis of behavior or physiological basis of behavior class in my senior year in college. And I was like, oh my God, my life is over. I'm never going to be able to do anything with my life. Oh God, what am I going to do? And 6 months later, I was like, all right, well, I had to take another class, and it cost me another couple $1,000s because I failed that stupid class, and it ruined my GPA even more. And, I think we get hit with shit all the time. We got a pandemic, okay? And we got to figure it out, somebody, I mean, I don't want to belittle stuff, but there's so many things that happen in life, and especially at my age, like, I've seen a lot of it, and the world keeps going, and you have a choice to keep going or not keep going. And, because of the fact that I was so miserable, I mean, I left K-Force and I was like, I'm going to get these MFers, okay? I'm going to show them that they made that mistake. I'm going to destroy their business here in San Diego. And that was my attitude for the first couple of years. I was so angry. Now, 14 years later, I am grateful. I'm so grateful that that experience was so bad in the last couple of years. I'm grateful for the 9 previous years of learning, and that's one thing I think many entrepreneurs make that mistake, is that they make the mistake of learning on your own dime instead of somebody else's dime. I learned on K-Force's dime. Okay, I got paid to learn how to be a manager and to be a leader and to be a salesperson and to be a professional and to be all the things that I did there. And I learned how to deal with the good things and the bad things. And I learned how a billion-dollar firm is run. I learned how to run a company. I run an office of 70 plus people in that place. And now my attitude is of complete gratitude. I so appreciate the fact that things happen the way they happened. And I'm not a believer of things happen for a reason. I think things happen and then you got to deal with them. Okay. Some things happen, and some people turn to alcohol and drugs. Some people have complete meltdowns and they don't do anything with the rest of their lives. Some people turn that around and they become, Adam Walsh, for those of you guys who don't know who he is, his son was kidnapped at a young age, and ultimately he started America's Most Wanted. But how many other parents get divorced and lose their jobs and completely melt down, and nothing happens with the rest of their lives?
And Lois, I think what you're saying is it's not really what happens to you. It's how you how you perceive and then respond to what happens. Yeah. And you do it differently, I think, than
I mean, I think that's one of those things where bad things are going to happen to everybody. Yeah. Nobody. I mean, one of my other slides here. That
I know we've seen one. Yeah, what, were you lazy here? You didn't do any slides. Oh no, we saw two. I take that back. Okay.
So here, okay. So most people think I was born a 50-year-old CEO. Okay. They think that, I've been this person for all of my life.
You weren't?
Okay. I'm a board of director, managing director. This is who I've been for all of my life. But, if you go to the buried part of my LinkedIn profile, okay, this is the second page. My parents owned a laundromat dry cleaner.
Yeah.
Okay. I was the guy that cleaned. I did people's laundry. Okay. Back in the day when I was doing laundry, men were wearing tighty whities.
Tighty whities.
You know how much streaked underwear I had to freaking wash? Okay. Yeah, that was nasty. Okay. And for the women, okay, I had to wash women's underwear as well. Okay. And they have a monthly problem as well. Okay. And so, okay, I worked at this blood and urine specimen, the taste and smell clinic in Washington, D.C. He dealt with people that got into car accidents and they would bump their heads and they couldn't taste or smell. And so I had to collect, they would come in with jugs of urine and I had to put them into tiny test tubes. Okay. And they would splash and spill and smell. I was just like, oh my God, so nasty. And before that, I stocked shelves at a Toys R Us back when they were in business. I was a cashier. I was a maid at a Days Inn. I worked at Bennigan's. I worked at Chi-Chi's Mexican restaurant. And nobody talks about this stuff. And this is something I actually worry about for my kids. And, for those of you that are having a tough time right now, okay,
Good.
if you can make it through this. And when I say if, and I only mean if from the standpoint of if you keep working at it, keep doing it, keep struggling, okay, there is no doubt, because this is one of the things I also gained from jiu-jitsu is you put in enough mat time, okay, and not just show up, but actually work at it, you will get better. There's no doubt in my mind, okay? But it's not about just showing up and like going through the motions. It's like showing up and actually really looking to learn and learning from your peers and being open to criticism and putting the ego aside and really listening and learning and applying. I have no doubt things will get better, but that's where the years from my high school years to my college years, I hated my 20s. I was just like miserable and broke all the time. I ran out of gas all the time because I didn't have any money, and even this was back when gas was like $1.50.
Right. Yeah. But but the fact that you've lived through it and that you can now be that paradigm of a successful entrepreneur, running a multi-million-dollar company. And yet you still had that background that looks a lot like where a lot of our students are right now, right? A lot of the people here in this room watching you, they're back there, stocking shelves and at the blood and urine specimen collection places. And just the fact that they have somebody that they can look to and then say, hey, this is how he did it. And he did it. I think is huge, because you were able to use, the company that you were working for as a paradigm and see yourself in there. But sometimes maybe not everybody is that creative and seeing themselves. So I think it's huge that you share this kind of things.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And from a perspective standpoint, it's now that I can look backwards, I can see, honestly, the really shitty, tough times are made or what made me so resilient and gritty. And that's what I'm afraid for my children, because my children, my boys are 14 and 15 and almost 16 years old. They have everything.
Yeah, they're too soft.
They're too damn soft.
Yeah,
like, oh my God, the dog scratched me. Let me show me. Well, it was there. I'm like,
you can't say there's no blood. I mean, yeah, right. No, I agree with you. I worry about this generation coming up but they've got the pandemic that they went through. I think that was pretty hard for all of us. So that might have. Really
but they didn't go. Honestly, nobody went through it by themselves. Or I mean, it wasn't like it just happened to Max or to Mackenzie or to Angela. Just pick some names, okay, or Felipe. It happened to all of us. And now, did it happen to the same to all of us? Absolutely not. Okay, but it happened to all of us. And so, it's just like life. Like, we don't all start at the same place. Some of us are given more than others. Some of us have different parents. Some of us have different upbringings. I was born in Korea. Here, let's see. That was me on our first day in Washington, D.C. when I got off the plane, fresh off the plane. No, that's my younger brother.
Oh, you little. Okay, yeah,
Not barely. He's actually tall. I'm the oldest of four, and I'm the shortest. I'm 5'7". He's now 5'9". And then my two youngest brothers that were born in America and with American diets are both 6 feet tall. They're almost Max's size.
Wow.
But I was
Oh,
if this
Beautiful.
kid, if this kid, okay, with this haircut,
yeah.
can become something, okay.
What a haircut! Did your mom do that to you?
Yes, yes, she did.
I'm immigrant parents too, and I had a bowl haircut. Just I swear, every immigrant mother they follow a playbook of and the shirt. No.
Yeah, that was a Sears Roebuck shirt.
I love it. That's awesome.
Anyway,
oh, we're almost out of time. I just realized that we're almost out of time. But yeah, I don't want to cut it out too much. But I'll let you wrap it up.
Let me say one thing here, real fast. Yeah. Okay, I think most people ask the wrong questions in life. Mm-hmm. Okay, and one of the bad questions is, what do you want to be when you grow up? Mm-hmm. Okay, it is a horrible question. And instead, I think one of the better questions is, what do you want from your life? What kind of life do you want? And frankly, growing up poor, growing up with that bowl cut, one of the things I did not want to be was poor. I didn't care how I did it. And I realized that sales was one of the ways to do it. Recruiting was one of the ways to do it. I wanted a upper middle class life, a suburban life. I wanted a brand new house because my house was 60 years old. It was always broken. There was no air conditioning. There was a lot of mold in the place. We had crappy cars. I wanted a certain kind of life. And that's what I worked toward. And I think that's one of the things that people, especially when you're in college or even out of college, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? I don't know. What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to be? You know what? Instead, you should tell them, this is what I want my life to be like. Okay, whether you want to live by the ocean or you want to live out in the country, or you want a family, you don't want a family. Once you know what you want from life, then you can work toward that, because certain lifestyle requires certain types of jobs and certain types of income. And that's one of the wrong questions. Another wrong question is, how do I get a job at this company? Okay. And the question should be, how can I add value to this company? How can I add value to this manager? What problems can I solve for this company? What problems can I solve for this manager? And I think so many times that we're just conditioned to answer the wrong questions because that's how we were always asked, and that's how they're our parents and our whatever. But I hope you guys got something out of this.
That was huge. I think it's just great advice all around. I mean, I personally, everything that you said I can echo that from an academic perspective, and just personally as an entrepreneur myself. I think I'm glad you were so open and shared so much, because for me, you hit the nail on the head so many times. But I want to make sure anybody else have anything to add, or to were we going to take it away?
So, if there is a question, I will take it. But one last thing I do want to share, okay? And I think I talk to Mike about this all the time, okay? Is when this is over, okay? How will you remember me? Okay? This specific presentation. Did you actually get something out of it? Is there something different that I do? Is there something different in the way that I am? That's the main reason that I started the presentation with the failures, because most people don't do that. And I try to do that in my business. I try to do that in my life. I walk the stairs every single morning when I come to the office. Nobody does that. Everybody are stupid. When you go to the airport, I'm the idiot walking the stairs. I don't care how big the stairs are. I'm walking the stairs. Okay, and I think about that in my life as well. I want to do different. Not just say that I'm different, but I do different. And as an entrepreneur, as a leader, I think you have to constantly challenge yourself. Everybody says they're special, but they don't do special. And that's one of the things, if you're honest with yourself, I wasn't doing anything special when I was losing in jiu-jitsu. I was doing the same thing everybody else was. And so, as you're becoming an entrepreneur or a leader, what do you do that is special? There's a book, Who You Are Is What You Do. I don't have it with me right now. I think it's actually in the car.
It'll go on my list. It'll go on my list.
It's either what you do is who you are, or who you are is what you do. It's a great book, and it's really about, the things that you do is what you are. Okay, so that's what one thing I would leave you with is it's not your haircut. I mean, that's fine. I mean, whatever. It's not your clothes, but it's really when you are doing stuff. What is the stuff that you do that is very special and different, and doing it in a way that. My condom party. I mean, who else has had a condom party?
And now I'm
the guy. I'm the guy that throws the condom parties. I can say that.
Yep.
Okay.
From here on out. Yep. I'll always remember he's the condom guy.
And that's how I promoted myself. Hey, I'm the guy that throws the condom parties. Oh yeah, you? You're that idiot.
Yeah, it sticks. Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Such great pearls of wisdom here. Thank you so much for everything, for everything that you shared. And I'm going to share something with you too. Every time I have an entrepreneur come visit us from the rec, I write down the books that they recommend. And gosh, this list has just been like amazing. You guys all come up with the best books to share. So I'll share that with you also, Lois and Michael. Make sure to get that over to you as well. And thank you. So Matt, Stephen, anything that we need to do housekeeping wise?
Yes, I dropped a link to a survey into chat. I'll drop it again right now, in between all of the praise that Lewis got. You can please take that. Proven Recruiting, the Rec Innovation Lab. Lewis would appreciate any feedback that we can get for these workshops.
And I also put the link to the book he was talking about, What You Do Is Who You Are, How to Create a Business by Ben Horowitz. And I put a link to that in the chat as well. Thank you so much, Lewis. That talk was amazing. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for your time, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And see, I'm not making it up. There's my gold medal. Mike is jealous. He wants one
the kid with the ball cut with the gold medal.
See the guy on my right in the black gi.
Yeah.
I ended up choking him out. He passed out in front of his wife and kids.
Oh, you made him look like your first competition.
I didn't pass. I didn't go to sleep. He wouldn't tap. He was so
Stubborn.
Yeah. He wouldn't tap. And so instead, he was like, he flopped out for like 3 seconds. And then you can see the other guy to my left there, who's just like that mouth, like, oh man. And he actually came all the way from South America for this tournament, and he had to fly home. Unfortunately, it was third place.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
well, thank you. Yeah,
thanks, Tanya.
Thank you for coming. And just also one last thing I want to let everybody know, this video, we're going to have it available for you if you wanted to check it out in our YouTube channel. Usually about 24 hours it takes us. We'll see everybody at the next workshop. Have a good one. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Bye.